There was no bombings, there was no fires, there was no windows broken. There was an absence of criminality, there was an absence of violence. That was the sworn testimony from the OPP, from the RCMP, from the Ottawa City Police, from CSIS, and so on. So, see, that's what's concerning here, is that we're using new terms to define violence. It wasn't actual violence, it was felt or perceived violence. So I'm not suggesting, nor any of my clients, that it would have been unreasonable for the government to take steps. And I was always baffled why they didn't use some of their existing powers early. I was always baffled as to why no one applied for an injunction to have them leave. We had a triggering, sufficient to trigger these powers that have only been triggered in the past in World War existential situations of national security. And I think it's a chilling effect. It fundamentally changes the ability of not just this government, of any other government. That's what I think we've got to be careful about. Some wishes, which was to always keep the protest peaceful, always keep it as respectful as possible, to make sure there was no violence, no vandalism, those sorts of things. There was no burning of churches or buildings or anything like that. It was these people had the right to have representation as they exercised their charter right of protests and lawful assembly. At no time, each of the police officials that we walked through, and I think it was even Lamenti as well, were any of the legal triggers met to declare this an unlawful assembly, even though everybody uses this phrase unlawful assembly, and they all agreed they weren't. They didn't meet the requirements. The Riot Act wasn't read under the criminal code. I could go on. So all in all, I think what should have happened was someone in the federal government should have said, hey, let's sit down and talk to these people. Let's hear them out. They didn't have to agree with the protesters, but the Canadian way to do things is have a civil discourse, see where we can agree, to on a way of a dialogue to move forward to resolve grievances. And now, as a government, you don't have to work that hard anymore. You can ignore those who disagree with you, and if they get too boisterous and they start protesting, well, now you can seize their bank accounts and freeze their business accounts as well. And I think that's what's so dangerous about what happened. And the other road captains had negotiated over a number of days, and I was involved in that with the mayor, and leading into the weekend before the invocation. And on the Monday morning, the same day, the same afternoon, February 14th, that the Emergencies Act was invoked, they had shown their ability to clear out a number of city blocks. Over 100 protest vehicles moved, 23 up to Wellington, the rest out to the base camps, and some of them, people went home. So I think they demonstrated their ability to have moral suasion and get the cooperation of the protesters. The only reason that was stopped was because the police put a stop to it, and that was the use to their elected officials. And political parties need to decide what their position is, because if enough Canadians say, no, I don't think this is right, what's happened here, and it's not a reflective of my Canadian values, then a future government can amend the Emergencies Act to put in truly stringent thresholds so that it can't be used to simply quell protests and lawful dissent.